Vecna is the iconic villain of both Stranger Things and D&D. But how accurate is the show's Vecna compared to D&D's lore for Vecna? What even is D&D lore? Why do we have such a soft spot for capital E evil villains in the first place? Well, let's start by unpacking part 1 of the question. How accurate is the show to D&D lore? Henry Creel was a child with psionic abilities whose madness and insanity drove him to murder, and later to try and annihilate the human race. I think the plot's a little vague on Vecna's exact motivations, but they seem to be of the kill everyone variety, which is lore accurate. But in the show Stranger Things, the kid referred to this Henry Creel guy as Vecna. It's a reference to the evil spellcaster that Mike and Dustin fought in Eddie Munson's Hellfire Club's D&D campaign, the one they played just before facing off against Vecna. The kids do this largely as a way to communicate with Eddie about what kind of threat they're facing. The show has a long history of doing this, referring to these humanoid flowerhead goop sharks as Demogorgons, plural, and this big spider thing as the Mind Flayer. But they look and act nothing like their D&D inspirations. In D&D lore, the Demogorgon is a demon lord called the Prince of Demons and is a two-headed baboon with tentacle hands. He is a lord of madness, and the two heads argue incessantly. Obviously not a feature of the Demogorgons on the show. The Mind Flayer in D&D is a humanoid calamari with a tentacle face, and it likes to eat brains. Technically, they're a hive mind, so really the show sort of got the two switched. Stranger Things' Demogorgon is a lot more like a D&D Mind Flayer, whereas the show's Mind Flayer is a lot more like the D&D Demogorgon. But the show did accurately use the connection of Mind Flayers creating thralls to serve them, like the show does with Will in Season 2. The point is this: Stranger Things has never respected D&D's lore, and neither should you. Vecna's lore, you won't be surprised to learn, has nothing to do with anything I've said so far. Welcome to Mystic Arts, where we'll do 2 back-to-back videos about lore because December just, brings that out in me. My name is Daði. I'm a professional writer and director, and I've been DMing for 11 years. Before we can talk about Vecna's in-game lore, I think we need to acknowledge his origins. So, to the history corner! Vecna's first ever mention can be traced to D&D's third ever supplement, Eldritch Wizardry from 1976, where author Brian Bloom created a lot of D&D's iconic artifacts, like the Axe of the Dwarvish Lords, the Hand of Orcus and the Rod of Seven Parts, the Codex of the Infinite Planes and the Machine of Lum the Mad, the Mighty Servant of Luaco and Baba Yaga's Hut. God, what a collection of icons. And of course, among that lot of newly forged legends were the Hand and Eye of Vecna, which are insanely powerful magic items in this edition. There's just a huge list of properties. Eldritch Wizardry is also the origins of the Sword of Cass, where it is said that Cass was a lieutenant and bodyguard of Vecna. By reading the descriptions of those 3 items, you'll learn that Vecna was a lich, and he died, and when he died, his hand and eye survived somehow. That's kind of the only lore D&D fans got for a while. It wasn't until 14 years later in 1990 that Vecna got to be a character, a villain, in the Vecna Lives adventure. It begins with the characters playing the Circle of 8, Morgan Kanan and Bigby and all those guys, and then they all get killed by Vecna. Not mechanically or anything, the DM just sort of does it. Oh, and one more sidebar. Vecna is an anagram of Vance, the influential author of the Dying Earth series. A lot of these early D&D magic items are full of references like that. I think the Hand and Eye are references to the Michael Moorcock books. Unfortunate name, that. Moorcock. Anyway, so who is the canonical version of Vecna? Well, he's a fairly standard lich. Think Voldemort or literally any similar archetype, and you're pretty close to the official lore. He originates from Orth, as a human child. There's rumors about his mother being a witch, but regardless of his parents, stories say he had a special affinity with magic from a young age. But he was never satisfied with his lot in life. He always wanted more. His ambitions grew from lichdom for eternal life, to conquering the world, to conquering all the worlds, to becoming a god, to killing all the other gods so that he could be the god of all realities. Every time he achieved one of his goals, his ambitions were set higher, because fundamentally, he'll never be happy. so he must be evil. But the thing with Vecna is that he's really more of a kaleidoscope. The version I just described is the Greyhawk Vecna, but people love Vecna. DMs have been making their own Vecnas for ages. Matt Mercer ran Vecna as the main bad guy of Campaign 1 of Critical Role. I assume the Whispered One will appear in the final seasons of Vox Machina. Matt Colville made his own Vecna in response to that arc, talking about how he designed Vecna as having abilities that rewrite your character sheet, built around the premise of one of Vecna's names being the Master of Secrets and Lies. And of course, the creators of Stranger Things made their own Vecna, complete with a mangled hand as a nod to the character. Psionic powers, psychosis, complete insanity, and entirely insatiable. Really, at the core of who the character is, Stranger Things' Vecna is a lot like the official D&D Vecna. And if you were to run Vecna at your own table, you should probably make your own Vecna. Create your own kaleidoscopic reflection of the character. Vecna is a classic, mustache-twirling cartoon villain. He tends to herald the change in editions like he did with Die Vecna Die, or like he did in Vecna Eve of Ruin, the last 5th edition adventure, before they came out with 5th edition, 2nd edition, 2024 edition. In this adventure, Vecna's plan is to enact a ritual that will kill all the gods so that he can become the only god worshipped on all of the material planes. He'd literally be like the monotheistic god with a capital G. Eve of Ruin, though, isn't exactly a great adventure. It's got 2 fundamental problems that you're going to bump into if you're going to run it. Spoilers ahead. Skip to this timestamp if you want to avoid spoilers. Number 1, the central premise is that you go to different campaign settings and collect pieces of the Rod of 7 Parts to stop Vecna's evil ritual. So each chapter is a campaign setting that you drop into, do a thing, and then skyhook out of. Usually it's a couple of fights or a 5-room dungeon, so it's all very touch and go. But that problem pales in comparison to issue number 2. You're being fooled. Mordenkainen in the adventure is secretly cast the Bloody-Handed in disguise, and he's leading the players on a wild goose chase. And he's pretending to be Mordenkainen by the aid of an artifact that also makes it so that the players cannot figure out he's Cass, which is one problem. But the other means the whole premise of the adventure hangs on the players being lied to, and then at the end getting rug pulled. I think that's a bad premise. I don't think that's good adventure design. I think a better premise would be to have Cass ask the players to complete the ritual. Have the evil vampire tell the players, "I hate Vecna, I want to stop him, I am the one who killed him," and then betray them at the end. But they'll expect that. They'll take his quest knowing that only he knows where all the pieces are, but he's probably going to betray them. And now, every time they meet him, there's going to be tension. Do we do what he says? Do we strike now? Do we trust him? Can we trust him? That's better tension. Anyway, that's my issue with this adventure. I'll make my own Vecna adventure when I run him as the Babig for my girlfriend in our one-on-one campaign. I remember in my Westmarches game, our overarching campaign threat was Acererak, which is essentially the same character, don't at me. These evil liches make for excellent Westmarches villains for 2 reasons. 1, they are unrepentantly evil, and 2, you can kind of pin any plot thread on the increasingly insane plans of a mad wizard. Oh, and if you're running a Westmarches game, you might run into all kinds of trouble organizing the whole thing. You know, what with the Discord servers, the spreadsheets, files, and wikis. But there's a website that's perfect for this. Westmarches.Games is a free, one-stop shop for organizing your Westmarches games specifically. Not a generic campaign manager, but a tool for Westmarches style of play. They are the sponsors of today's video. You can use it to catalog all the characters in the community, have a shared calendar and history of adventures, post-session XP, currency distribution, and a marketplace for players to spend those rewards. A collaborative world wiki and a hex crawl editor so the group can explore and reveal the world together. It all ties directly into Discord by including signups by character and automatic reminders for basically everything. You can try the whole thing out for free, or get their premium services by signing up to their Patreon to support the creator, and in return you'll get bigger maps, more storage, and advanced tools. So whether you're a player or a DM, go check out Westmarches.Games and see if it doesn't solve your Westmarches logistical problems today. Naturally, I made my own Vecna. One that ascended 1,000 years ago, but was then killed by Mordenkainen after he rebuilt the Circle of 8. Now, Vecna is a dead god. But like all gods in my setting, he is bound to return one day. Gods can't die. My Vecna ruled over the Shadowfell until it was usurped by the Raven Queen 100 years ago, when she collapsed the ethereal plane on top of the Shadowfell. Now, the Formless Tower, as he's called, collects bodies and souls to reform his physical body so that he may one day return as a god of sorcery, undeath, secrets, and lies that walks the mundane world. Mordenkainen and the Raven Queen know it's inevitable. There is no stopping how quickly he gathers souls of the dead, but they intend to slow him down, each in their own way. The Raven Queen by marshalling the dead through the Shadowfell and sending them to their afterlives as quickly as possible. Mordenkainen by preparing a new Circle of Eight to take the fight to Vecna before it's too late. What's great about Vecna is how much the name alone means to the players around the table. I talked a bit about this in our video on Tiamat and what she means and teaches us about 20th level play because there's power to name recognition. Players who are tangentially familiar with the lore will feel a shiver go down their spine when you mention Vecna. They'll be excited to fight him, like thousands of players have done before. You can give them that gift, and you can give yourself the gift of getting to make your own Vecna, with its own history tied into your setting. Tie him into your lore. Maybe you bring along figures like the Raven Queen or Mordenkainen like I did, but maybe you don't. Maybe you make him your own. The promise is to let your players fight the legends. You know, they heard the name on Stranger Things. Maybe some of your players will only know Vecna from Stranger Things. To which you can point out that Stranger Things stole Vecna from D&D, just like they stole the Mind Flayer and the Demogorgon. And then you tell said player, now you have to fight him in D&D, the original version. Only it's up to you how original you go. You can use the 5e stat block, you can reconstruct Matt Mercer's stat block, if you can piece it together, or you can make your own. The point is just to give your players an opportunity to fight the legends from the D&D mythos. Which brings me to the main point of this video. I think capital E evil bad guys get a bad rep. So let me make the case in defense of evil villains. Here is the truth of the matter. All my favorite NPCs are morally gray. Many of my favorite villains are morally gray. There's so many flavors of morally gray. You've got the ends justify the means, or the if I don't, someone worse will, or the I have to protect everyone, no matter the cost. All of them are interesting topics to explore, and I think they're great topics for a mature gaming table. My campaign setting of Atroxia and Blackguard, which I'm publishing over on the Patreon with the broadsheets, is full of morally gray characters, or more mundane evils. The kind that isn't destroy the moon evil, but is, let's systematically disenfranchise the workers for profit evil. That's bad. But it's so mundane you might not feel right decapitating those people. I mean, you might, in which case pop off. But the thing with that kind of play is that the players can and will get tired of there never being a right answer. Or feeling like they're the bad guys, or maybe they're acting as vigilantes or outlaws, or themselves working in morally gray areas. Okay, so am everything I'm doing just kind of bad? At a certain point, your players want you to say, and then Deathclaw the puppy kicker comes in and prepares to set a child on fire, because then they can use their class abilities to annihilate Deathclaw the puppy kicker and not feel guilty. Vecna is a perfect puppy kicker character. Here to destroy the world and enslave all the people and crown himself as god of all realities by murdering anyone who doesn't like him. That's bad. Your players will want to stop him. And when they say out loud, we should kill Vecna, every NPC is going to say, hell yeah, brother, let's go kill Vecna. They're going to cheer on the players. Nobody needs to have a think about the morality of their violent actions or debate who deserves mercy and who doesn't. They can destroy Vecna, tear out his other eye and his other hand, and they'll love it. And your job as a DM in that scenario is to be hateable until the moment you get to play Vecna as pathetic just before they win, and you lose gracefully. And your players get to feel awesome. That's what D&D is about. Morally gray characters belong. God knows I love them. But I think they're better as mid-tier bad guys or the between chapters bad guys. But when we get to the end of the campaign, we should all be in agreement that we're going to create a new set of artifacts out of Vecna's many limbs, and it'll be awesome. DM, I have Vecna's left thumb joint that I'm going to cast Gate with it. Online, there's a lot of talk in story and writing communities about relatable villains or understandable or empathetic villains, and talking about them as if they are somehow empirically better than other villains. And I don't buy it. Avengers Infinity War introduces us to Thanos, who in that movie is empathetic and understandable, and it's good storytelling. In Raiders of the Lost Ark, we are introduced to Indiana Jones absolutely beating the snot out of the bad guys from World War II, and it's good storytelling. Killmonger walks on stage in Black Panther, and I buy his motivation, and I empathize with him, and it's good storytelling. Xenia Onatopp is a mad woman who loves to kill and bone, ideally at the same time, and she wants to start a nuclear war because she's into it. And it's good storytelling. I could just list examples here forever. And the point is the opposite is also true. Carly Morgenthau is empathetic and relatable, and an uninspiring villain we'll forget immediately after watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Snoke is a capital E evil villain who nobody cares about. The key isn't whether they're relatable or pure evil. Each has a time and place you can make good stories with both. And you can make bad stories with both. Neither concept wins, it's just about the stories. Which brings me to Vecna from Stranger Things. A wicked villain who's done plenty of evil things, but we also saw how he got that way. And we kind of understand how we could have gotten that way, maybe, if we were in the same shoes, theoretically. He becomes empathetic, a little, but he's not relatable or funny. He's just sort of evil. And I think that's perfectly fine for a lot of stories. Especially stories where I have to be the character that does the bad guy murdering. I want them to be evil. And plus, there's something lovely about watching the DM play a camp villain who laughs like Skeletor and cackles with joy as he counterspells resurrection magic and then casts Meteor Swarm. So for your next campaign-ending villain, take a note from Vecna and make them be evil with a capital E. And that's where we'll pick it up next time. Thanks so much for watching this video. This channel is run by me and my girlfriend. And if you want to support us, evil! If you want to support us directly, consider joining our Patreon and picking up the Broadsheet to take a look at our campaign setting, Blackguard, where Victorian values clash with D&D fantasy in a magazine with pre-written adventures you can drop right into your next game. For more on D&D and Stranger Things, click right here to watch our video on what made Eddie Munson such a great DM. And if you're feeling especially generous, you might like the video, comment, share, or subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified when we release new videos. Until next time, keep studying the mystic arts.